Good morning. Right. My name's Aaron. This is my co-pilot Ray. We're senior consultants working for the data services consultancy Red Olive. We've been coming to SQL Bits for nearly a decade now, and we love it so much that this year we've decided to step out of our comfort zone a little bit and submitted a couple of small presentations. So this is only 20 minutes, so if you have any questions, let's save them for the end. And if there's not quite time, we'll just come on up and we'll have a chat. In this introductory session, I hope to help you understand the overlap between Power BI and Report Builder, and to demystify pagination and what it is, how it works, when we should use it. So, Report Builder. For me, I've worked with reporting services for a long time, since like the 2005 version. I love it, it's brilliant. I've had to continually reassess, though, where it fits within my work. Earlier in my career, I was using Report Builder for absolutely everything. I was using it to create automated alerts through data-driven subscriptions, call center wallboards with scrolling informative ticker tapes. I was using it to create building schematics with heating system outputs overlaid on them. I used it far more than I should have done. And at the time, it felt great. I was automating workloads, I was creating insights, I was helping my colleagues, but hindsight gives me a new perspective. So it was literally my hammer, and every problem was a nail. Since then, I've grown. I now have experience. So let's look at when it's a good time to use Report Builder so that you can avoid some of the pitfalls that I fell into. It lacks interactive features such as cross-highlighting and cross-filtering. You can't expand and pin visuals like you can in Power BI. It has a few good options for visualization, but not the range of options that Power BI has to offer. So, and it kind of isn't as intuitive for a beginner. There is a lot less to learn, so it's perhaps easier to master, but it can be a little bit fiddly. It maybe just isn't quite as polished as Power BI is. So, when should you use it? Why should we use it? Here's a short comparison between Report Builder and Power BI. My report consumers absolutely love Excel, right? They love it. And sometimes understanding the art of the possible is the biggest challenge to moving them onto Power BI. If I told my report consumers that I could recreate their Excel reports identically, they'd never learn what they could have had. So it's crucial that we understand our report consumer and our requirement before we choose a tool like Report Builder. Be careful that you understand that you're trading those interactive features that Power BI enhances our users' analytical experience for a strict conformed data output that may not always allow for exploration of data to gain those new insights. However, Report Builder has a high degree of control over page layout, like borders, colors, fonts. Everything can be visibly controlled, turned on and off. It can all be dynamically controlled, column widths and table layouts and so much more, things that you can't really do easily in Power BI. It's also able to export a lot more data as well, and it gives you more control over what is exported. So Power BI has a few limitations and can be a bit inflexible in that regard. So it gives you more options. But most importantly, it's its ability to do all of this and paginate our data at the same time. That is why I continue to reach for it and use it as a tool, and why I find value in it. So let's look at pagination then. What is pagination? Conceptually, it's very simple. It's where we take a table of data and we identify a row group, and then we iteratively convert the rows in that group into pages. It's as simple as that. But then we can take the records within a group and we can lay them out on a page as suits our needs. So pagination lets us do that. It also lets us do a few other things to allow us to kind of visualize our data in a variety of different ways. So for example, we could take that same set of data and add a country column, and then we could iteratively and dynamically create and name tabs in Excel. So we're able to generate those tabs using pagination. And we could even take a subgroup within our data and iteratively generate tables within those tabs across that subgroup. So we have the ability to paginate kind of within pagination. So there are options for us. So why paginate? What are the use cases that addresses? We we get as I've said, we get a great deal of control over format and page layout. Data grids within Report Builder can expand and overflow across multiple pages in a controlled manner. Power BI gives you scroll bars for out-of-view data, but pagination allows us to ensure that all the content is visible when it's exported. And while technically you can use these features to produce highly formatted, customized Excel reports, typically it's used to create PDFs, financial statements, work orders, shipping labels, legal documentation, generally something that goes on a page. So now we roughly know what Report Builder is, and we've had a look at pagination. Let's do a little demo. Let's go through and see if we can connect Report Builder to a Power BI semantic model. We'll use list boxes and row groups to paginate our data into both PDF and Excel formats so we can see how that works. And then we're going to generate and parameterize our DAX so that our report has some user-definable selections. If we get time, we should have time. Okay, let me just sort my screens out here, bear with me. Cool. So up on screen, I've got a blank copy of Report Builder open. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to right-click on data sources and add a Power BI dataset connection. And I'm going to connect to, I was signed in a minute ago. Okay, I'm going to connect to a data set that I created for this demo called flight history. And now I need to add a data set to my report. First, I'm going to choose the data source that I've just added. I'm going to name it my flight history. And I want to add some DAX code. So those of you that are fluent in DAX can just start typing. There are a couple of options to make this easier for us. I can go to Query Designer and start dragging and dropping, but I find that a little bit cumbersome. So I'm going to go to a blank copy of Power BI that I've got here. And I'm going to do the same thing in Power BI. I'm going to get data from a Power BI semantic model, again with connecting. Here we go. Let's try this. And I'm going to connect to the same data set that my Power BI, my report builder is connected to. Hopefully. Here we go. Flight history. And I've got access to my data. So I'm just going to build the same table in Power BI that I want to paginate over in Report Builder. So I've just added a table visual, and I'm going to add some information to this. I'm going to add my customer name, first name, surname, the customer title, their address they live at, and then what I'm interested in here is where did my customer depart from, where did my customer go, and what date did they do the journey, and how long did it take them to do that journey. So if we just have a little look at our data here, we can see customer ID 1 is represented as a whole bunch of rows. So I want to paginate over our customer ID and create a page for each customer so I can send a letter to them, okay? So next I'm going to go to Optimize and turn on Performance Analyzer. And this will allow me to refresh the visuals on the page, and it'll tell me how long it took to refresh that visual, but it'll also give me this copy query option. This means I can copy the DAX straight to my clipboard. There is a step I want to take just before I do that, though. I just want to turn totals off on my visual, because the totals actually come out in the DAX, and it'll be a separate row in my Report Builder report, and I don't want that. So I'll just refresh my visuals again, copy my DAX, and now go straight across to Report Builder, paste in the box. So now we've got DAX I didn't have to write. Nice and easy. If I go to fields, this will give me all the fields that are pre-generated in my DAX, and it puts the table name in there, and it puts the field name in there. I'm just going to tidy that up a little bit and just only have the field name so I'm not messing around. That'll do. And then hit OK, and now I just want to add that table of data onto Report Builder and just make sure that it works. And then we're going to paginate. So customer ID, first name, surname, title. I wish there was an easier way to drag fields onto a table in Report Builder, but there kind of isn't. There we go. And I'm just going to run my report and just have a look and see if it looks the same way Power BI looks. Yep, it's not formatted quite as neatly, but like I say, you've got lots of control over formatting, so with a bit of time, we could make it look like that. And then here's the magic sauce. We're going to insert a list box. A list box is just a table in Report Builder, but a single cell of a table. And it's this orange curly bracket here that represents the row group. So we're going to be able to use this to perform pagination. So first thing you need to do with a list box is you need to assign in the properties section, just zoom in here, the data set that you've added in the report to the list box. So we have to kind of link the two together. Then we take our table of data. I'm just going to cut it and paste it straight into my list box. Now it contains it. And then finally, we're going to configure this row group. So we go to group properties, add a group expression. We tell it what we want to group our data within our list box over. So in this case, I'm going to use my customer ID because that's what I want on a page. And then we go to page breaks and create a page break between each instance of the group that we've selected. So I can now just move my list box to the top of the report, run it again, see what we've got this time. So I can see customer ID is on page 1. If I go to my page selector at the top there, customer ID 2 is on page 2, page 3, page 4, and page 5, and so on. So we've technically achieved pagination now, okay? Everything else is formatting. So what I'm going to do is just have a look at what that looks like. I mean, if I just run that again and just look at the print layout, you can see, you know, this is coming out on pages. It's just a matter of tidying that up. So what I'm going to do is, I'll show you one I made earlier in a second because we don't have time to format it. But I'm going to just tweak the group, and instead this time I'm going to group by departure country, because rather than going to PDF, maybe I want to go to Excel, and I don't want one Excel tab for every customer. I want an Excel tab for all the different countries, perhaps. So we'll group it by departure country. Okay. And then I'm going to run the report. I missed a step. There is one more property to populate called page name. Now our page name property is the name of the tab in Excel. So I'm just going to put an expression in this box, which is the departure country. Just put the departure country in the exact same field. There we go. Right, now we'll run our report, and we're just going to export this time straight into Excel. It doesn't matter that the page layout's on. I'm going to drop that on my desktop, and then just go and open that up. And hey presto, Ireland, Norway, Spain, so on. So we have all of our countries now showing as a separate tab, and within each tab we have the templated data. So you can see the UK has got multiple customers showing on there because we're paginating over the country and not the customer ID. Now, if I took that one step further and I wanted to create a letter, here's one I've made earlier with exactly the same data. We've got the same data source, the same data set. But this time, I've spent a little bit of time just tidying it up. I've put a text box in there with the title and the surname in there. I've got some aggregations for the flight duration, just summing the total flight duration. And then I've got my same little table of data on there. I can run that. And that didn't. Live demos. Oh, is this because of authentication? Again, it's complaining about this. Never do a live demonstration. She kept telling me never to do a live demonstration. Look at this, your email is not registered with the Power BI service. I am going to stop messing around with this now. Unless it works. Here we go. Yeah, okay. There we go. So on a page now, we can see we've basically written a letter to a customer, providing them a detailed breakdown of their flight history. I can look at the page layout of that, and I can see every customer showing up on a page. I can automate this process. I can have this data looking at a table that's pre-populated with bills that need to go out at the end of the month. I could have a paginated report that's looking at that table and generating those bills through a workflow of some kind. So this is good. This is great. Okay, finally, what I'm going to show you is how to parameterize that so our users can make some filters before we get to the point where they're running their report. So back to my report here. There's a few steps. We need to add a parameter to our report. My parameter I'm going to call this the airline. Airline. Now, I need to fill that parameter with some data, so I'm going to add another data set, and I'll just show you here that I can go to Query Designer rather than Power BI to generate my DAX. It is a little harder to use. I think sometimes it depends. It's really personal preference. But for a single column of data, it's very simple. I'm just going to drag airline name in there. These are my 3 different airlines, the SQL Bits Flight Simulator, and so on. I'm going to add that. And I'm just going to name this my airline. OK. And then go to my parameter, and I'm going to fill my parameter with the values from that query. Here we go. And now when I run my report, I'll have a little drop-down box with those 3 airlines in. And then the last step is to inject that parameter into my DAX code. So I'm going to go back over to Power BI. I'm going to add the airline field. Let's go get my airline field and add that as a column into my table. I'm also going to go to filters and just pre-filter it to a hard-coded selection. We'll go the SQL Bits Flight Simulator. And then we're going to just refresh my DAX again. We'll clear this down and refresh that and get that copied. Then back over to Paginated Report Builder, and I'm just going to paste over my DAX. And you'll see my DAX has got this nice little section at the top here, which is passing that hard-coded filter in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the parameters section, add a parameter, call it airline, map it to the internal parameter in Report Builder, and then I'm going to go back to my query, and have we not saved it? And I'm going to go and replace this value here with airline. OK. And aha, that seems to have worked. Oh, there is one thing I missed. Let's just drag the airline name into my table so we can see if it's worked. Run my report, select Paginate Airways, run my report, and just come out of print layout. There we go. We can see Paginate Airways is showing on every page. So passing a parameter into our DAX requires virtually no coding. So it's quite simple. Cool. That is the end of my demonstration. Let me just swap my screen back over again. Maybe. If you can't tell, this is the first time I've ever done this. Let's extend. Extend. It's not working. Ah, there we go. Oh no, we've come right up on the wrong page. Right, okay. So, to conclude, Report Builder is a great tool. You can do a lot of cool stuff. It isn't great for analytical exploration of data, and you don't have the same level of visual interactivity as Power BI, but Power BI can't paginate. And if it can, it probably shouldn't. So if nothing else, remember that pagination can be an extremely useful tool to iterate over our data into conformed, pixel-perfect layouts. Thank you for attending. Thank you very much. Any questions? Do we have time for questions? Any online questions? Cool. Yes.
If you're publishing that report for a user to run on demand,
yes.
Where would it get published to? The Power BI service?
So if you're publishing the report for a user to run the report on demand, yes, you would publish it to the Power BI service. You would publish it to a workspace. You can put it into an app. You can even embed it into a Power BI report so our consumers can go to a Power BI report, maybe look at a data extracts tab and see like the paginated report built in. Yeah. Any more questions? Yes? Yes. So, I mean, bills for maybe a utility company or, like anything really where you need to deliver a letter to a consumer. So it could be reminders and final notices. It could be financial breakdowns and summaries, balance summaries, that kind of thing. So it's quite good for that. It is also quite good for legal documentation as well. So if you've got like a contract that's maybe 5 or 6 pages long, and depending on certain parameters in your database, you need to hide certain appendices or replace certain words within the contract, it's a template, right? You're just replacing certain things in there. So, yeah, cool. Any more? Cool. Well, thank you very much. Thank you.